Happy Valentine's Day. It's a beautiful day. It's been so cold here on the Outer Banks this winter. Um, and I think in California you're getting ready to have some rain. I think that's what I was hearing in the weather. It's supposed to get real rainy in Southern California. Um, but yeah, we've had way below average winter. We had a big snow and some really cold weather. We had a lot of ice in the sound. It's finally thawed out, but even this morning it was still well below freezing, and we're having a little bit of an increase. It's like about 46 degrees. I just went and worked out. That's why I'm kind of wearing shorts and a t-shirt, because I'm warm from moving. But it's Valentine's Day, and Valentine's Day, look at all the beauty out here, the north end of Roanoke Island. This is your family's ancestors' graveyard. This is where your people are buried. And there was also Indians were buried here. They built their graveyard right next to the Indian cemetery. The Indians think it was called a cemetery, but it's got a different name. But it's the same idea. The Indians buried their dead with a ceremony and with respect, just like the Europeans did. So this is the Doe Cemetery, and right over there somewhere is a ancient Indian or Native American cemetery. And so there's a fire over there, and it's Saturday, and Valentine's Day is Saint Valentine's Day, and like many, it's a Christian holiday actually, and people need to kind of remember that love and relationships are really at the primary part of what makes us a society and makes us people. We're always looking around for all of these ideas about what's life all about, and but it's largely really about men and women finding one another and falling in love and creating families, and then a broader sense of love that shouldn't be. That needs to be in the context of when it in a broader sense of love of all humans, realizing that we're all connected and all related in a real way, in a very real way. We're all created. The DNA from one person to the other is minorly different. Now, those minor differences express themselves in a way that makes us on the surface feel very unique and everything, physically speaking. Obviously mentally, and the life path that we take in the intangible parts can be much different between one person and the other, and that's what makes each one of us unique. Every life, the 100 billion people or whatever have lived on the earth throughout history, that they think or every one of them was different, but lived a different life, but physically we're brothers and sisters, and spiritually, and in the world that we live in, we're brothers and sisters. So we all share a common ancestor, and so Saint Valentine was the legacy, anyways, is that he was imprisoned and was in love with the daughter of the jailer, and he would write her letters and sign them your Valentine or something like that, or Saint Valentine. But it's very important to, and he would marry people. He was in jail or something for, it had to do with marrying people. I don't remember, but he would marry people, and in some context that wasn't I don't know, it was, they call it illegal or something in his jurisdiction or wherever he was at in Rome. And there's always a history of ceremonies and holidays, and that go back before Christianity. And there was the older holiday or celebration of fertility, I guess, in ancient times before Christianity, and Valentine's Day is kind of in line with, apparently, with the same time that this other holiday. So there was there was a recognition, in Christianity that these ideas were important, but they wanted them to be in Christianizing the philosophy or the teachings of Christ, which is important with a lot of holidays are like that, and lots of times a year. Sometimes people put a twist on that. That's like, oh, it was taken away. No, it's not. It's a recognition of the good in the world, but the goodness that the philosophies of loving one another and salvation and all that had. It was an advancement in the way we live. Unfortunately, a lot of organized religion is just like anything else. It involves humans and people and flaws, and that often, taints a lot of people's experiences. But you got to get back to the basics, to just thinking about what Christ was trying to teach, and not what every single person in a church or a religion or organization tells you is they're just another human being. You can take it all in and filter it for yourself, but basically we're all equal, and that was and we're all part of the same flesh. I mean, that is actually the words of Christ. I think that's one of the Bible doesn't have most of the Bible is not the words of Christ. So I think that was an actual Christ words, that we were all of the same flesh and the same we're all we were just as much a part of God as Christ was part of God. He's trying to teach us that and that was the lesson, is that we're all part of the one creation, and we're all the children of God. Just like he was the Son of God, and so people they make it so much more complicated than it was, than it is. But yeah, St. Valentine's Day is a Christian holiday. St. Valentine was apparently a real person. He was a saint, and he was doing good things, marrying people, which is a good thing. So yeah, we're still below average temperatures. It's like still, even though it feels warm compared to what we've had, I don't know how long we've gone with a day that was even average temperature. We've been way below average temperatures. It's not the coldest winter, but I've ever had. When I was a little kid, we had a series of really cold winters, but I had some in the 90s. When I was building swimming pools, I remember at least one winter that was really probably two winters. They come in spells. There's no question that these weather patterns are in cycles. You go through a stretch of a few cold years, and then a stretch of warm years or winters, or wet. Sometimes there's also periods of wet, but the cold and the warm definitely seem to go in streaks. That's probably because of a pattern with the Arctic air, maybe water currents or something like that. But there's other things too that really affect the weather. And that's like volcanic activity. Now, I don't know we've had any major volcanic activity, but volcanoes can change the weather all across the whole hemisphere, maybe even the whole globe if they're big enough, significantly for multiple years on a row. And then there's also solar activity. The sun doesn't have the same level of activity every year. It goes in cycles. The sun sometimes produces more energy and stronger radiation, and sometimes less. And Galileo, going all the way back to Galileo, he observed that back in his time, just looking at the sun through a telescope. Hopefully, he had a lens filter on it, so it didn't burn his eyes out. But but yeah, there's called sunspots, and anyhow, that gauges the activity of the sun and solar energy. So volcanic activities, water currents and water cycles, and air mass cycles. And actually, I think there's been, there's so much talk in the last 15 years or something about ice melting, but I actually think the last few years we've actually had a net increase in accretion of ice on the poles. If I've read that correctly. They don't like to talk about that because they made such a political movement one way. But back in the 70s, There was the exact opposite. They were talking about everything's getting ready to freeze again. And we do, there has been like little cold ice ages. So we're still technically we're still in the tail end of the big ice age. Globally, temperatures on the whole are still lower than the average global temperatures for most of the history of we know of from looking at the geological record. So that over the last 100,000 years, there's this ice age, and but it's been we lost a lot of the ice age animals. You know, the woolly mammoths and the furry elephants is basically what they were. You know, but there's still the buffalo, the American, the bison is a ice age animal, and there's others. But polar bears, but polar bears are just really, they can interbreed with grizzly bears. So they're basically grizzly bears that became more accustomed to the most cold climates, and their fur got these hollow fibers for their fur, which reflects sunlight, makes them look white. Their skin underneath of it is black, so for holding heat. And they're a little bigger than grizzly bears. About the same. The biggest Kodiak bears are about the same as the polar bears, but yeah, they're tough animals. So anyhow, just enjoy this whole thing we call life, and I love you, and happy Valentine's Day.